A billionaire who'd forgotten how to feel. A young woman carrying secrets of her own. Two orphaned children desperate for hope. And an enemy who would stop at nothing to tear them apart. When their worlds collided, everything changed. This is their story. The wrought iron gates of River Oaks opened with a mechanical hum that seemed to echo Olivia Morgan's nervous heartbeat. She gripped the steering wheel of her 10-year-old Honda Civic, feeling utterly out of place as she drove past manicured lawns that probably cost more to maintain than her entire college tuition. "You've got this, Liv," she whispered to herself, catching a glimpse of her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her honey-blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her green eyes held a determination that had carried her through 4 years of student loans and part-time jobs at Houston's busiest daycare center. The Harrison mansion materialized before her like something from an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the late-afternoon Texas sun, and the contemporary design of steel and glass seemed to dare anyone to feel comfortable within its walls. Olivia parked her car next to a sleek black Tesla and a silver Mercedes, suddenly very aware of the duct tape holding her side mirror in place. She grabbed her backpack, stuffed with picture books, colored pencils, and a worn teddy bear that had comforted countless children over the years, and approached the massive front door. Before she could ring the bell, it swung open to reveal a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an expression that immediately put Olivia at ease. "You must be Miss Morgan. I'm Patricia Wells, the house manager. Thank goodness you're here." The relief in Patricia's voice was palpable. "Those children need someone with a warm heart, and from what your references said, you're exactly what this house needs." Olivia stepped into a foyer that could have fit her entire apartment. A contemporary chandelier hung from the 20-foot ceiling, and abstract art adorned walls so white they seemed to glow. Everything was pristine, untouched, sterile. "Where are Grace and Noah?" Olivia asked, noticing the unnatural silence. Patricia's expression darkened. "In their rooms. They've barely come out since—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Since they lost their parents 3 months ago. Mr. Harrison, Tyler, he means well, but he's drowning in work and grief. He doesn't know how to reach them." A door slammed somewhere above them, followed by the sound of rapid footsteps. A little girl with dark curls and eyes red from crying appeared at the top of the curved staircase. "I want my mom," 7-year-old Grace screamed, her voice breaking. "Why won't anyone bring her back?" Olivia's heart cracked. She'd seen grief before, had held sobbing children at the daycare when parents were late or when goldfish died. But this was different. This was the kind of loss that reshaped a childhood. She dropped her backpack and climbed the stairs slowly, not rushing, not crowding. When she reached Grace, she simply sat down on the step beside her. "My name's Olivia," she said softly. "And you're absolutely right. It's not fair." Grace looked at her with surprise. Adults usually told her everything would be okay, that time heals all wounds, that her parents were in a better place. But this stranger with kind eyes was agreeing with her. "Nothing about this is fair," Olivia continued. "And anyone who says differently is lying." "You know what else?" Grace shook her head, a tear rolling down her cheek. "It's okay to be angry, it's okay to cry, it's okay to miss them every single day." Olivia pulled out a tissue from her pocket. "But you know what your mum and dad would want." "What?" Grace's voice was barely a whisper. "They'd want you to remember the happy times too, the funny stories, the silly jokes, the way your mom probably sang off-key in the car, or how your dad made terrible pancakes on Saturday mornings." For the first time in weeks, Grace's lips curved into the tiniest smile. "Dad's pancakes were awful, he always burned them." "See? That's a memory worth keeping." Olivia stood and extended her hand. "Now, I heard there's a 4-year-old brother around here who might need some cheering up. Think you can help me with that?" Grace hesitated, then placed her small hand in Olivia's. Together, they walked down the hallway to Noah's room. The door was covered in stickers of dinosaurs and spaceships, the only personal touches Olivia had seen in the entire mansion. Inside, a small boy sat in the corner, building blocks scattered around him, his thumb in his mouth. "Hey, Noah," Olivia said, sitting cross-legged on the floor. "I'm Olivia. Your sister told me you're really good at building things." Noah didn't respond, but his eyes flickered with interest. Olivia pulled out her phone and showed him a picture. "I need help. See this? It's a block tower that reached the ceiling at my old job. The kids there said it was impossible to build higher. Think we could break that record? Noah's thumb slowly slipped from his mouth. How high? Sky high. Beyond the skyline high. For the next hour, Olivia, Grace and Noah built the tallest block tower the mansion had ever seen. They laughed when it wobbled, cheered when they added each new level, and groaned dramatically when it finally toppled over. Patricia watched from the doorway, wiping her eyes with her apron. They didn't hear the front door open. They didn't hear the expensive Italian shoes clicking across the marble floor. They didn't notice Tyler Harrison standing in the doorway of Noah's room, his briefcase still in hand, staring at a scene he hadn't witnessed in 3 months. His niece and nephew laughing. Tyler Harrison was used to controlling situations. At 29, he'd built Harrison Aerotech from a small startup to a $50 million aerospace technology company. He negotiated with military contractors, managed hundreds of employees, and made decisions that affected national security. But watching this young woman with paint-stained jeans and a bright smile coax joy from 2 traumatized children left him completely unprepared. "Again! Again!" Noah shouted, already gathering blocks for another tower. "Only if your uncle says it's okay," Olivia said, finally noticing the tall man in the doorway. Tyler Harrison was exactly what Olivia had expected from Patricia's description, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car, dark hair styled perfectly, and eyes the color of a Houston thunderstorm. But what she hadn't expected was the raw pain behind those eyes, quickly masked by a professional coolness. "Mr. Harrison," she stood, suddenly aware of the block in her hand and the silly grin still on her face. "I'm Olivia Morgan. We spoke on the phone." "Miss Morgan." His voice was deep, controlled, businesslike. "I see you've made yourself at home." There was something in his tone that made Olivia bristle. Not quite disapproval, but close. "I've made them comfortable," she corrected gently. "There's a difference." For a moment something flickered in Tyler's expression. Surprise, perhaps, that someone would challenge him. In his world, people agreed with him. They said yes. They didn't push back. "Uncle Tyler, look." Grace held up a drawing she'd made. "Olivia taught me how to draw a butterfly." Tyler took the paper, and Olivia watched his jaw tighten as he studied the colorful wings. When was the last time Grace had drawn something? When was the last time she'd smiled? "It's beautiful, Grace," he said, his voice softer now. He looked at Olivia, and for just a second the corporate armor cracked. "Thank you." Those 2 words carried the weight of 3 months of helplessness, of watching the children he loved slip further away, of failing at the one thing that mattered more than any business deal. "You're welcome," Olivia replied. Then, because she couldn't help herself, she added with a small smile, "But fair warning, Mr. Harrison, we're going to make a lot more mess before we're done here." Tyler Harrison had no idea how prophetic those words would be. This woman, with her second-hand clothes and optimistic smile, was about to turn his carefully controlled world completely upside down. And somewhere deep in his chest, in a place he'd locked away after losing his brother, something began to thaw. Olivia woke to the smell of burning toast and the sound of a smoke alarm screaming through the mansion. She bolted from the guest room, a space larger than her entire previous apartment, and ran toward the kitchen in her pajama shorts and an oversized University of Houston t-shirt. In the massive chef's kitchen, Tyler Harrison stood in front of a toaster, wearing dress pants and a partially buttoned white shirt, waving a kitchen towel at the smoke detector with one hand while holding his phone to his ear with the other. "Yes, Jenkins, I understand the meeting starts at 8, but—" He paused, noticing Olivia in the doorway, her hair a messy tangle from sleep. "I'll call you back." Olivia grabbed a chair, climbed up, and disabled the smoke alarm with practiced efficiency. The sudden silence was deafening. "Mr. Harrison, do you know how to make toast?" she asked, trying desperately not to smile. Tyler's jaw tightened. "The toaster malfunctioned." "The toaster works fine. You just set it to the setting that cremates instead of toasts." She hopped down from the chair and examined the blackened bread in the sink. "Were you trying to make breakfast for the kids?" "Patricia has the morning off. I thought—" He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "I thought I could handle toast." Something in his vulnerability made Olivia's teasing fade. Here was a man who probably commanded boardrooms full of executives, who built rockets for crying out loud, defeated by a household appliance. "How about I make breakfast and you can help?" she offered gently. 20 minutes later, the kitchen smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. Olivia had whipped up French toast with fresh strawberries, and Tyler had been relegated to strawberry slicer, a job he approached with the same intensity he probably used for contract negotiations. "These slices are uneven," he muttered, examining his work with a critical eye. "They're strawberries, not aerospace components. I think we'll survive." A small giggle came from the doorway. Grace stood there in her princess pajamas, Noah peeking from behind her legs. "Uncle Tyler is bad at cooking," Grace announced with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. "Uncle Tyler is learning," Olivia corrected with a wink. "Everyone has to start somewhere. Come on, you two. Breakfast is ready." The four of them sat at the enormous dining table, clearly designed for formal dinner parties, not family meals. Olivia had insisted they sit at one end, close together, rather than spread out across the expanse of imported Italian marble. Noah took a bite of French toast and his eyes widened. "It's good. Better than Uncle Tyler's pancakes?" Grace asked. Tyler raised an eyebrow. "I make perfectly acceptable pancakes." Both children erupted into giggles. Even Olivia couldn't suppress her smile. "What? I do," Tyler insisted, but there was something lighter in his voice, something that hadn't been there the night before. "Uncle Tyler makes hockey pucks," Grace explained to Olivia. "Even the dog wouldn't eat them." "We don't have a dog," Tyler said dryly. "That's because the dog ran away after tasting your cooking." Grace dissolved into laughter, and Noah joined in, syrup dripping from his chin. Olivia caught Tyler's eye across the table. For just a moment, she saw gratitude there, not for the French toast, but for the laughter, for the normalcy, for the brief glimpse of the children his brother had raised before tragedy struck. Then his phone buzzed, and buzzed again, and again. Tyler glanced at the screen, and Olivia watched the walls rebuild themselves. "I need to take this. Finish your breakfast." He disappeared into his study, and the kitchen seemed dimmer without him. "Does Uncle Tyler ever eat with you?" Olivia asked carefully. Grace shook her head. "He's always working. He says it's important." "I'm sure it is," Olivia said, though something twisted in her chest. "But you two are important too." After breakfast, Olivia had planned a trip to Herman Park. She'd loaded sunscreen, snacks, and a soccer ball into her beat-up Honda when Tyler emerged from his study, car keys in hand. "Where exactly are you taking my niece and nephew in that vehicle?" he asked, eyeing her car with obvious concern. "Herman Park. There's a playground, trails, and I thought we could visit the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Noah seems interested in dinosaurs." "In that car? I can see the road through the floor on the passenger side. That's just a small rust hole. It's perfectly safe. Passed inspection last year." Tyler looked physically pained. "Please take the Mercedes, for my sanity if nothing else. I don't drive cars that cost more than my student loans." "Miss Morgan." "Olivia, and my car is fine." They stood there in the circular driveway, neither backing down. Grace and Noah watched with fascination. Adults didn't usually argue with Uncle Tyler. Finally, Tyler pulled out his phone. "What's your insurance deductible?" "Why?" "Because I'm calculating the odds of my lawyers weeping when you inevitably have an accident in that death trap." Despite herself, Olivia laughed. "You're dramatic. You know that. I'm practical. There's a difference." But the corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Almost. Fine. We'll take the Mercedes. But only because the air conditioning in my car sounds like a dying walrus. That's disturbing on multiple levels. Welcome to my world, Mr. Harrison." This time he definitely almost smiled. Herman Park was everything Olivia had promised. The children ran through McGovern Centennial Gardens, chased ducks around the lake, and spent an hour in the museum marveling at dinosaur bones. Olivia took photos on her phone, Grace pretending to be eaten by a T-Rex, Noah with his face pressed against the mineral exhibit, both of them covered in ice cream from a vendor near the Japanese garden. She didn't notice Tyler's black Tesla parked across from the museum entrance. She didn't see him sitting in the driver's seat, having cancelled 2 meetings, watching his niece and nephew be children again for the first time in months. Tyler told himself he was just checking to make sure they were safe, that he was being responsible, that this had nothing to do with the way Olivia had looked at breakfast, sunshine streaming through the kitchen window, making his brother's children laugh like the world wasn't broken. But when she lifted Noah onto her shoulders so he could see into the primate exhibit, when she patiently retied Grace's shoes for the third time, when she sat on a bench and let both exhausted children lean against her while she read from a picture book, Tyler felt something he hadn't felt in 3 months. Hope. His phone rang. His assistant. Another crisis at work. The company he'd built from nothing needed him. But for the first time in his adult life, Tyler Harrison hesitated before answering. When they returned to the mansion that evening, Patricia had prepared chicken tacos, Noah's favorite. The children were sunburned, exhausted, and happier than they'd been since the accident. Tyler met them at the door, still in his work clothes, looking like he'd been there all day. "Did you have fun?" he asked. "Uncle Tyler, I saw a real dinosaur skeleton," Noah announced. "It was this big." He stretched his arms as wide as they could go. "And I learned about butterflies migrating," Grace added. "Miss Olivia says they travel thousands of miles, just like birds." "Miss Olivia is very smart," Tyler said, meeting Olivia's eyes over the children's heads. There was something different in his expression, something warmer, something that made Olivia's heart beat just a little faster. "It's just Olivia," she said softly, "and they're great kids. You're lucky to have them." "I know," Tyler replied. And this time, he really meant it. That night, after the children were asleep, Tyler stood in his study looking at the photos Patricia had sent him, screenshots from Olivia's phone that she'd shared. Grace laughing, Noah smiling. 2 children who looked like children again, not survivors. He pulled up Olivia's employment file on his computer. 24 years old, graduated summa cum laude from University of Houston, worked at Little Sprouts Daycare for 3 years while putting herself through college. References described her as magical with children and the most patient person I've ever met. What the references didn't mention was how she'd challenged him at breakfast, how she'd refused to back down in the driveway, how she'd looked at him like he was just a man, not a CEO or a millionaire or a name on a building downtown. Tyler closed the laptop and looked out the window at the Houston skyline glittering in the distance. His carefully controlled world was definitely getting messier, and he was surprised to realize he didn't mind at all. 2 weeks into her job, Olivia had established a routine. Mornings meant breakfast adventures, sometimes successful, sometimes resulting in Patricia laughing so hard she had to sit down. Afternoons were for exploration, the Houston Zoo, Buffalo Bayou Park, even a trip to the NASA Space Center that left Noah talking about astronauts for 3 straight days. And evenings? Evenings had become unexpectedly complicated. Tyler had started coming home earlier. Not early by normal standards, usually around 7 instead of 10, but early enough to read bedtime stories, to hear about the day's adventures, to be present in a way he hadn't been since becoming the children's guardian. Tonight, Olivia was in the kitchen making her famous chocolate chip cookies when Tyler walked in, loosening his tie. "Something smells incredible," he said, and Olivia tried to ignore how her stomach flipped at the sound of his voice. Cookies. Grace requested them for her school bake sale tomorrow. She pulled a tray from the oven, the warm scent of melted chocolate filling the air. Tyler leaned against the counter, watching her work with an intensity that made her hyper-aware of every movement. Over the past 2 weeks, something had shifted between them. The professional distance had eroded, replaced by something warmer, more dangerous. "You have flour on your nose," he said softly. "I have flour everywhere. It's part of my aesthetic." She tried to wipe it off with the back of her hand, only succeeding in spreading it further. Tyler stepped closer, and Olivia's breath caught. He reached out, his thumb gently brushing the flour from her nose. The gesture was simple, innocent, but the air between them crackled with electricity. "There," he murmured, his hand lingering just a moment too long. The kitchen suddenly felt very small and very warm, and it had nothing to do with the oven. "Uncle Tyler, Miss Olivia." Noah's voice broke the spell as he ran into the kitchen. "There's a fancy lady at the door and she says she lives here." Tyler's expression shifted immediately, warmth replaced by something harder. "Stay here." Olivia followed anyway, curiosity overriding obedience. In the foyer stood a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Her designer dress probably cost more than Olivia made in 6 months. Her platinum blonde hair was styled in perfect waves, and her smile was all sharp edges. "Tyler, darling," the woman purred, moving toward him with the confidence of someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. "I've missed you terribly." "Victoria," Tyler's voice was ice. "What are you doing here?" "Victoria, the ex-fiancée." Olivia had heard Patricia mention her once, the corporate lawyer who'd left Tyler 2 months before his brother's accident, claiming she couldn't handle the drama of instant parenthood. "I made a mistake," Victoria said, her hand touching Tyler's arm. "I was scared, but I've had time to think. We're perfect together, Tyler. You know we are. You left." Tyler's voice was flat, emotionless. "And I'm back, ready to make this work, to be what you need." Victoria finally seemed to notice Olivia standing there in her flower-covered jeans and old t-shirt. "Oh, is this the help? Darling, you really should have her use the service entrance." Something dangerous flashed in Tyler's eyes. "This is Olivia Morgan. She's the children's nanny and is worth 10 of you on your best day." Olivia's heart did something complicated in her chest. Victoria's smile never wavered, but her eyes turned calculating. How quaint. Playing house with the hired help. She turned back to Tyler. "When you're ready to discuss this like adults, I'll be at the Post Oak Hotel. Don't make me wait too long." She swept out, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume and tension in her wake. "I'm sorry you had to witness that," Tyler said quietly once the door closed. "Were you really engaged to her?" Olivia couldn't help asking. "For about 15 minutes 3 years ago. Longest 15 minutes of my life." He ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly exhausted. "Victoria saw a lifestyle, not a life. When things got complicated, she ran. And now she's back because she thinks enough time has passed, that I've gotten the messy family stuff under control." His jaw tightened. "She has no idea that Grace still has nightmares, that Noah won't sleep without his giraffe stuffed animal, that I'm failing at this every single day." "You're not failing," Olivia said firmly. "You're learning. There's a difference." Tyler looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Make me believe things might actually be okay." Before Olivia could respond, Grace appeared on the stairs, her face pale. "Uncle Tyler, I had the dream again, the one about the car." Tyler was moving before Olivia could blink, climbing the stairs and scooping Grace into his arms. "I've got you, sweetheart. You're safe." Olivia watched as he carried Grace to her room, murmuring comfort, and felt her heart crack open just a little wider. An hour later, both children were finally asleep. Olivia found Tyler sitting on the back patio, staring at the lit swimming pool that reflected the Houston skyline in the distance. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. He gestured to the chair beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the warm Texas night wrapping around them. "My brother Jason, he was the good one," Tyler finally said. "Funny, spontaneous, great with kids. I was always the serious one, the one who lived at the office. When he and his wife died, I became guardian to children I barely knew how to talk to." He paused. "I've spent 3 months terrified I'm going to fail them." "You won't," Olivia said softly. "You sound very sure." "I am. You know why?" She turned to face him. "Because you're here. Because you care enough to try. Because you cancelled meetings to read bedtime stories, and because you're learning to make toast without setting off smoke alarms." That earned her a small smile. "Low bar. It's the right bar." She hesitated, then added, "Your brother chose you to be their guardian for a reason, Tyler. He saw something in you that maybe you don't see in yourself yet." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "Thank you for everything you've done for them, for us." "You're welcome." They sat there as the night deepened, Houston's lights twinkling in the distance, and something unspoken settled between them. Something that felt like possibility, like hope, like the beginning of something neither of them had planned for. Inside, neither of them noticed Patricia watching from the kitchen window, a knowing smile on her face. The next morning, an enormous bouquet of roses was delivered to the house. The card read, "Thinking of you. Let's talk." Tyler threw them in the trash without hesitation. But Victoria Ashford wasn't used to losing, and she had no intention of letting Tyler Harrison, or his convenient little nanny, ruin her plans. From her suite at the Post Oak Hotel, Victoria made 3 phone calls. The first was to her father, a senior partner at Houston's most powerful law firm. The second was to a private investigator she kept on retainer. The third was to Tyler's biggest competitor in the aerospace industry. If Tyler wouldn't come back to her willingly, she'd simply have to remind him what happened when people underestimated Victoria Ashford. Meanwhile, at the Harrison mansion, Olivia taught Noah how to make paper airplanes, completely unaware that her simple presence in Tyler's life had just made her a target. Grace folded her airplane carefully, then wrote on the wing in crayon, "I wish Miss Olivia could stay forever." Tyler, passing by the doorway, stopped. He looked at his niece's hopeful face, at Olivia's gentle smile, at Noah's joy, and he realized with startling clarity that he wished for the same thing, which terrified him more than any business deal ever had. The Houston livestock show and rodeo was in full swing, and Olivia had convinced Tyler to take a Saturday off, a feat Patricia compared to getting a cat to enjoy a bath. "I look ridiculous," Tyler muttered, adjusting the cowboy hat Olivia had insisted he wear. "You look Texan," Olivia corrected, grinning. She wore denim shorts, cowboy boots she'd borrowed from Patricia, and a smile that made Tyler's chest tight. Grace and Noah ran ahead, cotton candy already staining their faces blue and pink. "I've lived in Houston my entire life and never once attended the rodeo," Tyler admitted. "That's tragic. You're basically a tourist in your own city." Olivia grabbed his hand without thinking, pulling him toward the livestock barns. "Come on, the kids want to see the baby goats." Tyler didn't let go of her hand. Neither did Olivia. In the petting zoo, Noah squealed with delight as a baby goat nibbled his shirt. Grace was having a serious conversation with a llama, and Tyler Harrison, CEO of a $50 million company, found himself genuinely laughing as a chicken attempted to steal his hat. "This is your fault," he told Olivia, chasing the determined bird. "My finest work," she agreed, taking photos on her phone. For a few hours, Tyler forgot about board meetings and quarterly reports. He forgot about Victoria's reappearance and the stress of raising two traumatized children. He was just a man at a rodeo with his family and a woman who made him want to believe in second chances. They were watching the barrel racing when Tyler's phone buzzed, a text from his head of security. "We need to talk. Urgent." Tyler's good mood evaporated. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked, noticing his expression change. "Work emergency. I need to make a call." He squeezed her hand apologetically. "Stay with the kids." "Of course." Tyler stepped away from the crowded stands, finding a quieter area near the vendor booths. His security chief, Marcus Rodriguez, answered immediately. "Boss, we've got a situation. Someone's been asking questions about Miss Morgan. Detailed questions. Background, employment history, financial records." Tyler's blood ran cold. "Who?" "Private investigator named Kent Sullivan. Works exclusively for high-profile clients. I did some digging. He's on retainer for Ashford and Associates law firm." "Victoria?" Of course it was Victoria. "What has he found?" Tyler asked tightly. "Nothing damaging so far. Miss Morgan's record is clean, but boss—" Marcus hesitated. "There's something else. Someone leaked details about your new aerospace contract to Meridian Tech, the bid that was supposed to be confidential." Meridian Tech, Tyler's biggest competitor, owned by Victoria's cousin. "How bad is it?" "They've undercut us by 15%. If we lose this contract, we're looking at layoffs. Maybe worse." Tyler closed his eyes, the rodeo sounds fading into background noise. This was Victoria's play: hurt his business, threaten Olivia's reputation, force him to choose between his company and his personal life. Classic Victoria. If she couldn't have something, she'd destroy it. "Double security on the house," Tyler ordered. "And Marcus, find out everything Sullivan has on Olivia. I want to know what Victoria's planning." When he returned to the stands, Olivia took one look at his face and knew something was terribly wrong. "Tyler?" "Later," he said quietly. "Let's not ruin their day." But the shadows had returned to his eyes, and Olivia felt something precious slipping away. That night, after the children were asleep, Tyler found Olivia in the kitchen making hot chocolate, her comfort ritual he'd learned. "Want to tell me what happened?" she asked, sliding a mug across the counter to him. Tyler wrapped his hands around the warm ceramic, gathering his thoughts. "Victoria is having you investigated." Olivia's hand froze halfway to her mug. "What?" "She hired a private investigator. I don't know what she's looking for, but Victoria doesn't play fair when she wants something." "And what does she want?" "Me. The lifestyle I represent. The social standing. Tyler's jaw tightened. She'll try to discredit you, make you seem unsuitable to care for the children. Anything to push you out and position herself back in my life. Olivia set down her mug carefully. Maybe I should quit. If my being here is causing problems for you and your company. No. Tyler's voice was sharp, almost desperate. Don't you dare let her win. This isn't about winning, this is about what's best for Grace and Noah. You are what's best for them. Tyler stood abruptly, running his hands through his hair. Do you know what my life was like before you arrived? Grace wouldn't speak, Noah wouldn't eat, I was drowning and didn't even know it. You saved us, Olivia, all of us. The raw emotion in his voice made Olivia's throat tight. There's something else, she said quietly. Something Victoria's investigator might find. Tyler waited, his expression open, patient. 5 years ago, my younger brother died. Overdose. The words came hard, scraping against old wounds. He was 17. I was 19, working 2 jobs to put myself through community college. I didn't see the signs until it was too late. Olivia. That's why I became a teacher. Why I care so much about kids who are hurting. Because I know what it's like to miss the warning signs, to lose someone you love because you were too busy surviving to really see them. Tears spilled down her cheeks. If Victoria uses that against me, uses my brother's death to say I'm unfit. Tyler crossed the kitchen in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. Olivia stiffened for a moment, then collapsed against his chest, years of grief finally finding a safe place to land. Your brother's death doesn't make you unfit, Tyler said fiercely. It makes you exactly the person Grace and Noah need, someone who understands loss, someone who knows how to survive it and still choose joy. Olivia pulled back slightly, looking up at him through tears. You really believe that? I know it. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away tears. And if Victoria tries to use your pain against you, she'll discover that I can be far more ruthless than she ever imagined. They stood there in the quiet kitchen, the Houston skyline glittering through the windows, and something fundamental shifted between them. Tyler, Olivia whispered. We can't. I know. But he didn't step away, and neither did she. I work for you. The kids need stability. This is complicated. The most worthwhile things usually are. That's a terrible argument. I'm aware. A small smile tugged at his lips. But I'm also aware that I haven't felt this alive in years. That coming home doesn't feel like a burden anymore. That I actually look forward to burnt toast and paper airplanes and hearing about your adventures in my own city. Tyler, I'm not asking you to make any decisions tonight, he interrupted gently. I'm just being honest. After everything we've both lost, don't we deserve to be honest about what we're feeling? Olivia's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. And what are you feeling? Tyler's answer was to lean down slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and press his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle, tentative, like a question. Olivia's answer was to rise on her toes, hands sliding into his hair, and kiss him back with all the emotion she'd been trying to suppress for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Tyler rested his forehead against hers. That, he murmured. I'm feeling that. Olivia laughed, a watery sound mixed with tears and joy. We're going to regret this. Probably. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. Worth it, though. From the hallway, neither of them saw Grace standing in the shadows, clutching her stuffed rabbit, a small smile on her face. Her uncle was happy. Miss Olivia was happy. Maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. But in a high-rise office downtown, Victoria Ashford studied the report her investigator had delivered. Photos of Olivia and Tyler at the rodeo, holding hands, laughing together. Background information on Olivia's brother, financial records showing student debt. Victoria smiled, sharp and cold. Perfect, she murmured, reaching for her phone. Just perfect. The real game was about to begin. The letter arrived on a Monday morning via certified mail. Tyler was in his study reviewing contracts when Patricia brought it to him, her face pale. Mr. Harrison, this came from Ashford and Associates. It looks legal. Tyler's stomach dropped as he read the letterhead. Victoria's father's firm. He tore open the envelope and felt his world tilt. Notice of intent to challenge guardianship. Victoria was suing for custody of Grace and Noah. The allegations were brutal and meticulously crafted. That Tyler was an absent guardian who prioritized work over the children's well-being, that he'd hired an unstable caregiver with a family history of substance abuse, that the children deserved a stable two-parent home that Victoria claimed she and Tyler could provide together. Every line was designed to wound. Every accusation was technically defensible in court, twisted just enough from truth to sound damning. Tyler's hands shook with rage as he read about Olivia's brother, the tragedy Victoria was weaponizing as evidence of genetic predisposition to addiction and poor judgment in family matters. A knock on the study door. Olivia entered, took one look at his face and knew. She made her move, Olivia said quietly. Tyler handed her the letter. He watched her read it, saw the color drain from her cheeks, saw her hands begin to tremble. "She's using my brother's death." Olivia's voice cracked. "She's saying I'm a risk to the children because of what happened to him. It's garbage. Any judge will see through it." "Will they?" Olivia looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "Tyler, I'm a 24-year-old with student debt and a family tragedy. Victoria is a successful lawyer from one of Houston's most prominent families. She has resources, connections, and I have the truth. Grace and Noah are thriving. Anyone can see that. But that's the problem." Olivia set the letter down carefully, like it might explode. "They're thriving because of stability, because of routine. A custody battle will destroy that. Lawyers, court dates, psychological evaluations. They've already lost their parents. Now they'll lose their sense of safety too." Tyler wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. A legal battle would traumatize the children further, especially when Victoria's team would inevitably interview them, question them, use them as pawns. "There has to be another way," he said desperately. "There is." Olivia's voice was steady now, resolved. "I quit. Today. Right now. No. If I'm gone, she has no ammunition. Her entire case falls apart. You're a devoted uncle who made one hiring mistake. You fix it, she drops the suit. I won't let you sacrifice yourself. This isn't about me." Olivia's composure finally cracked. "This is about two kids who've already been through hell. I won't let Victoria use me to hurt them more. I won't be the reason they end up in court, being asked which adult they love more." The truth of her words hung in the air between them. Tyler pulled her into his arms, and she let herself break, sobbing into his chest. "I don't want to leave them," she whispered. "I love those kids. I love—" She stopped herself, but Tyler heard what she didn't say. He felt the same way. "Stay," he pleaded. "We'll fight this together. I'll hire the best family law attorneys in Texas. We'll prove Victoria is doing this for revenge, not for the children's benefit. And while we're proving that, Grace and Noah suffer." "No." Olivia pulled back, wiping her eyes. "I need to talk to them. I need to say goodbye properly." "Olivia, please, let me do this right." That afternoon, Olivia sat with Grace and Noah in the playroom. She'd spent an hour preparing herself, practicing what to say, but the moment she saw their trusting faces, her carefully planned speech evaporated. "I need to tell you something," she began, and both children immediately sensed the gravity in her tone. "Are you leaving?" Grace asked, her voice small and frightened. "Like Mommy and Daddy left?" The question nearly destroyed Olivia's resolve. "Not like that, sweetie. Nobody's dying. But I do need to go away for a while." "Why?" Noah's bottom lip trembled. "Did we do something bad?" "No. No, baby. You two are perfect." Olivia gathered them both close. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices to protect the people they love, and I love you both so much." "Then stay," Grace pleaded. "Please stay. We'll be better. We'll be good. You are good. The best kids I've ever known." Tears streamed down Olivia's face. "But there's a lady who wants to make trouble, and the only way to keep you safe is for me to step back." "The mean, fancy lady?" Grace asked, surprisingly perceptive. "The one who made Uncle Tyler sad?" "Yes. But your uncle loves you so much. He's going to take care of you. And Patricia will still be here and—" "But you won't." Noah's voice broke on a sob, and suddenly both children were crying, clinging to Olivia like she was the last solid thing in their crumbling world. Tyler stood in the doorway, watching this scene, and something inside him snapped. No, this was wrong. All of it. He'd spent his entire adult life playing by the rules, being strategic, making calculated decisions. And what had it gotten him? A company he barely had time to enjoy, and a family held together by fear and obligation. Victoria wanted a war? She'd get one, but on his terms. "Olivia," Tyler said, his voice calm and certain, "don't pack your bags yet." She looked up at him confused. "Tyler, we agreed—" "No, you decided. I'm deciding differently." He crouched beside the three of them. "Grace, Noah, how would you feel about telling a judge how you really feel, about who you want to live with?" "I want to live with you and Miss Olivia," Grace said immediately. "Forever." "Me too," Noah echoed. Tyler met Olivia's eyes. "We fight, together. Because you were right before. I'm not failing these kids. And I won't start now by letting Victoria's threats dictate our choices." "Tyler, the custody battle could take months. It'll be brutal. I'm aware. I'm also aware that I love my niece and nephew more than I fear Victoria Ashford." He paused, then added quietly, "And I'm aware that I'm falling in love with you, and I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions." Olivia's breath caught. Grace and Noah looked between them with wide, hopeful eyes. "You can't just say things like that," Olivia whispered. "Why not?" "It's true." Tyler's hand found hers. "Stay. Please. Not as an employee. As family. Whatever that looks like. However complicated it gets, just stay." Olivia looked at the children's hopeful faces, at Tyler's sincere expression, at the home they'd built together from broken pieces. She thought about her brother, about the guilt she'd carried for years, about how these two kids had helped heal wounds she'd thought were permanent. "Okay," she said finally. "We fight." Grace cheered. Noah hugged them both so hard he nearly knocked them over. And Tyler kissed Olivia's forehead, a promise and a prayer all at once. That evening, Tyler made 3 phone calls. The first was to Marcus Rodriguez. "I want every piece of dirt you can find on Victoria Ashford and her father's firm. Everything." The second was to Houston's top family law attorney. "Money is no object. We need to destroy a custody claim before it destroys my family." The third was to Victoria herself. "You wanted my attention," Tyler said coldly when she answered. "You have it. But understand this. I will spend every dollar, use every resource, and fight until my last breath to protect those children from you. Come at my family again, and you'll discover exactly how ruthless I can be." He hung up without waiting for her response. Victoria stared at her phone, surprise quickly morphing into fury. Tyler Harrison was supposed to cave, to choose his company over everything else, to send the nanny away and come crawling back. Instead, he'd chosen to fight. Well, if Tyler wanted war, Victoria would give him one that would make him regret ever underestimating her. She dialed her father's private line. "Daddy, I need a favor, a big one." The battle for the Harrison family was about to truly begin. 3 weeks later, Olivia sat in the Harris County Family Court, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The courtroom smelled like old wood and anxiety. Beside her, Tyler sat ramrod straight in his best suit, projecting confidence she knew he didn't entirely feel. Across the aisle, Victoria looked immaculate in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Olivia's entire wardrobe. Her lawyer, her father Richard Ashford himself, exuded the kind of predatory confidence that came from winning cases for 30 years. Judge Maria Gonzalez entered, and everyone rose. She was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that seemed to see through every pretense. "This is a preliminary hearing for emergency custody," Judge Gonzalez began. "Miss Ashford, you claim that Mr. Harrison is an unfit guardian. That's a serious allegation. Make your case." Richard Ashford stood, his silver hair gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Tyler Harrison works 80-hour weeks at his aerospace company. He's left these traumatized children in the care of an inexperienced nanny with a troubling family history." "Objection," Tyler's attorney, Sarah Chen, interrupted. "Miss Morgan's personal tragedy is not relevant to her professional capabilities." "It speaks to judgment and stability," Richard countered smoothly. "The children deserve better than a rotating door of caregivers and an uncle who treats parenting as an afterthought." Tyler's jaw clenched, but Sarah placed a warning hand on his arm. "Your Honor, we have documentation showing Mr. Harrison has significantly reduced his work hours," Sarah said. "He's present for meals, bedtimes, school events, The children are thriving under his care. With the help of Miss Morgan, Richard interjected, remove her from the equation and what's left? A man who doesn't know how to parent. My client can provide a stable two-parent home with a man who doesn't love her, Tyler said quietly, unable to stay silent any longer. Judge Gonzalez raised an eyebrow. Mr. Harrison, please let your attorney speak. With respect, Your Honor, I need to say this. Tyler stood, ignoring Sarah's frantic gestures. Victoria Ashford doesn't want custody of my niece and nephew because she cares about them. She wants to punish me for moving on with my life. She left me when things got difficult, and now she's using these children as weapons. That's absurd, Victoria said, her mask slipping slightly. I care deeply about those children's welfare. You've never even met them, Tyler cut her off. Not once in the 3 months since I became their guardian. Not at the funeral, not afterward. You didn't send a card or make a phone call. But suddenly, when you see photos of me happy, you're concerned about their well-being. Victoria's face flushed red. Mr. Harrison, I appreciate your passion, but... Judge Gonzalez started. I'm not finished. Tyler's voice was steel. You want to question my fitness as a guardian? Fine. Let's talk about the fact that my 7-year-old niece had nightmares every night until Olivia taught her how to draw her feelings. Let's discuss how my 4-year-old nephew stopped speaking after his parents died, and Olivia spent weeks patiently building block towers until he felt safe enough to use his voice again. He pulled out his phone, pulling up photos. Here's Grace at her school talent show last week, singing for the first time since the accident. Here's Noah at the zoo, laughing. Here's both of them at Memorial Park, being children again instead of survivors. Judge Gonzalez leaned forward, studying the images. And yes, I work. I run a company. But I also read bedtime stories now. I make terrible pancakes on Sundays. I know that Grace loves butterflies, and Noah wants to be an astronaut. I'm learning, Your Honor. And maybe I'm not perfect, but I'm present. I'm trying. And most importantly, I love them. The courtroom was silent. Even Richard Ashford seemed momentarily at a loss for words. Miss Ashford, Judge Gonzalez said, her tone sharp. Why are you really here? Victoria stood, her composure cracking. I can provide stability. You can provide money, the judge corrected. That's not the same thing. I've presided over family court for 20 years, and I can smell a revenge case from a mile away. Your Honor, if I may, Richard began. No, you may not. Judge Gonzalez shuffled through papers on her desk. I've reviewed the school reports, medical records, and psychological evaluations for both children. Grace Harrison's anxiety has decreased significantly. Noah Harrison's developmental progress has accelerated. Their teachers describe them as increasingly engaged and happy. She looked directly at Victoria. What I don't see is any evidence of actual neglect or abuse. What I do see is an uncle who's adapting to unexpected guardianship, and by all accounts succeeding. But the nanny, Victoria tried. The nanny has an undergraduate degree in early childhood education, 3 years of professional experience and glowing references. Her personal tragedy makes her more qualified, not less. She understands loss. These children need that understanding. Richard Ashford stood. Your Honor, my client has significant resources. Resources don't replace love, Mr. Ashford. You should know that. Judge Gonzalez's tone could have frozen lava. This emergency custody petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering Miss Ashford to have no contact with the Harrison family for 6 months. If you file another frivolous claim, I'll hold you in contempt. Victoria's face went white with fury. This is dismissed. The judge's gavel came down with finality. Tyler felt his knees go weak with relief. Beside him, Olivia was crying quietly, and Sarah Chen was grinning like she'd just won the lottery. As they filed out of the courtroom, Victoria grabbed Tyler's arm. This isn't over, she hissed. You humiliated me in there. No, Tyler said calmly, removing her hand. You humiliated yourself by thinking money and connections could replace genuine care. Those children deserve better than you, Victoria. They always did. He walked away without looking back, taking Olivia's hand as they headed toward the exit. Outside the courthouse, in the warm Houston sunshine, Patricia was waiting with Grace and Noah. The moment the children saw Tyler and Olivia, they ran forward. Did we win? Grace asked anxiously. Do we get to stay together? We won, Tyler confirmed, scooping both kids into his arms. We're staying together. All of us. Noah looked at Olivia. You're not leaving? Not unless you want me to, Olivia said, ruffling his hair. Never ever, Noah declared seriously. You have to stay forever. Forever is a long time, Olivia said, but she was smiling through tears. Good, Grace said firmly, because that's how long we need you. That evening, back at the mansion, they celebrated with Patricia's homemade pizza and ice cream sundaes that Noah insisted on building taller than Uncle Tyler. After the children were in bed, exhausted but happy, Tyler found Olivia on the back patio staring at the Houston skyline. Penny, for your thoughts? He asked, settling beside her. I was thinking about my brother, she said softly. About how he'd be proud, I think, that something good came from all that pain. He'd be proud of who you are, Tyler said. I know I am. Olivia turned to face him. Tyler, about what you said in court. I meant every word. We're in uncharted territory here. You're technically still my employer. The kids need stability. We shouldn't rush into... Tyler kissed her, gentle and sure, cutting off her practical objections. I love you, he said simply when they broke apart. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm choosing you, choosing us, choosing this beautiful, complicated family we've built. I love you too, Olivia whispered, but I'm terrified. Good. Me too, he grinned. Let's be terrified together. From the upstairs window, Grace and Noah watched their uncle and Miss Olivia kiss under the stars. I told you she'd stay forever, Grace whispered. Forever and ever, Noah agreed. And in a high-rise office across town, Victoria Ashford stared at her phone, reading the text from her father. Drop this vendetta, you've embarrassed the firm enough, move on. But Victoria had never been good at accepting defeat. If the courts wouldn't help her, she'd find another way to make Tyler Harrison regret underestimating her. Her eyes fell on a file on her desk. Tyler's upcoming business deal with the Department of Defense, a contract worth millions. A contract that required extensive background checks on all key personnel, including any romantic partners living in his household. Victoria smiled, cold and calculating. The battle might be over, but the war had just begun. 2 months after the custody hearing, life at the Harrison mansion had settled into something that felt remarkably like happiness. Olivia had officially moved from the guest room to a complicated situation that involved Tyler's suite, late-night conversations, and the kind of joy neither had expected to find. Grace had made the honor roll. Noah had stopped having nightmares. Tyler had learned to make edible pancakes, mostly. And then Victoria's final strike landed. Tyler was in a meeting with Department of Defense contractors when his phone exploded with alerts. His company's stock was plummeting. Social media was on fire, and his assistant burst into the conference room, her face pale. Mr. Harrison, we have a situation. The scandal was everywhere. Anonymous sources had leaked a story about Tyler's inappropriate relationship with his children's nanny. Photos of them at the rodeo, holding hands. At Memorial Park, laughing together. A carefully edited narrative that made their relationship look predatory, unprofessional, scandalous. The Department of Defense contract was suspended pending investigation. Tyler drove home at 90 miles per hour, his mind racing. He found Olivia in the kitchen, staring at her phone, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she said immediately. Tyler, I'm so sorry. Your company is just a company. He pulled her into his arms. You're more important. Your employees depend on that contract. 50 jobs, you said, 50 families. Her voice broke. And it's my fault. If we'd been more careful, if I'd stayed professional. This is Victoria, Tyler said grimly. She hired someone to follow us, to twist everything beautiful into something ugly. Patricia appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands. The children are asking questions. Grace saw something on her friend's iPad at school. Something cruel. Tyler's blood ran cold. Where are they? He found Grace and Noah in the playroom, but the usual laughter was absent. Grace's eyes were red from crying, and Noah clutched his stuffed giraffe like a lifeline. Uncle Tyler, Grace said, her voice small. Kids at school said mean things about Miss Olivia. They said she's bad, that she's going to jail. That's not true, Tyler said, crouching beside them. None of it's true. Then why are people saying it? Grace's question held a wisdom beyond her 7 years. Why are they being mean to someone we love? Tyler looked at these two children who'd already lost so much, who'd finally started to heal and felt rage burn through him. Victoria had gone after his business, his reputation, fine. But going after his family, making his niece cry at school, that crossed a line even he hadn't imagined. Sometimes, Tyler said carefully, people who are hurt try to hurt others. It doesn't make them right. It just makes them sad. Is the fancy mean lady sad? Noah asked. I think she's very sad, Olivia said, joining them on the floor, so sad that she forgot how to be kind. I think we should send her cookies, Noah declared, with the beautiful logic of a 4-year-old. When I'm sad, cookies help. Despite everything, Tyler laughed. You know what, buddy? That's not a bad idea. That evening, after the children were finally asleep, Tyler stood in his study staring at the Houston skyline. The same view that had once represented his success now felt hollow. What did it matter if he lost everything else? Olivia entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. Patricia's special recipe. She says it helps thinking. I'm thinking about giving Victoria what she wants, Tyler admitted. Tyler, no, hear me out. He turned to face her. What if we go public, not with a scandal, but with the truth? I love you. You love me. We're building a family together. What if we stop hiding? Your company will survive or it won't, but I won't sacrifice our happiness to satisfy Victoria's vendetta. He took her hands. I spent 3 years engaged to someone I didn't love, because it made business sense. I'm not making that mistake again. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. You'd risk everything? For you and those kids? In a heartbeat. A knock on the door interrupted them. Marcus Rodriguez entered, his expression grim. Boss, you need to see this. He handed Tyler a tablet showing a live stream. Victoria was holding a press conference outside her law firm, her expression perfectly composed. Deeply concerned about the welfare of the Harrison children, Victoria was saying. My former fiancé has engaged in an inappropriate relationship with their caregiver, creating an unstable environment. Tyler was reaching for his phone to call his lawyer when something unexpected happened on screen. A woman pushed through the crowd of reporters. She was in her 60s, elegantly dressed, and looked furious. That's enough, Victoria. The camera swung to capture the new arrival. Tyler's jaw dropped. That's Eleanor Ashford, Marcus said unnecessarily, Victoria's mother. On screen, Eleanor Ashford faced her daughter with visible disappointment. You told me you were fighting for those children's welfare, but I just spent the afternoon with the family court judge, and she told me a very different story. Victoria's perfect composure cracked. Mother, no. I've watched you spiral for months, and I kept quiet because you're my daughter. But using children as weapons? Destroying a man's livelihood because he chose someone else? This isn't who I raised you to be. The press conference devolved into chaos as Victoria tried to regain control, but the damage was done. Her own mother had publicly contradicted her narrative. Tyler's phone rang. His lawyer, Sarah Chen. Did you see? She asked without preamble. I saw. Eleanor Ashford just sent me documentation proving Victoria hired the private investigator, orchestrated the leaks, and paid for the manufactured scandal. She's willing to testify if Victoria doesn't back down completely. Tyler felt something release in his chest. Why would she do that? She said, and I quote, I won't let my daughter destroy innocent people because she can't handle rejection. Sarah paused. Tyler, we can bury Victoria with this. Professional sanctions, possibly criminal charges for the stock manipulation. No, Tyler said quietly. What? I don't want revenge. I want her to leave us alone. Can Eleanor make that happen? She already is. Victoria's being sent to the Ashford family firm's London office permanently, and she's signing a legal agreement not to contact your family or interfere with your business ever again. After Tyler hung up, Olivia stared at him in disbelief. You let her go after everything she did? I let her face consequences, but I won't become her. We won. We have our family, our future. That's enough. Olivia kissed him then, fierce and grateful and full of love. You're a better person than I am, she murmured against his lips. No, I just finally figured out what actually matters. The next morning, Tyler called a staff meeting at Harrison Aerotech. Employees filed into the conference room, their expressions worried. The scandal had shaken everyone. Tyler stood at the head of the table and took a deep breath. "I want to address the rumors directly. Yes, I'm in a relationship with Olivia Morgan, my niece and nephew's nanny. Yes, it started while she was employed in my household, and yes, I'm completely unequivocally in love with her." Shocked silence filled the room. "If anyone has a problem with that, I understand. But I won't apologize for finding happiness while learning to parent two traumatized children. I won't apologize for falling in love with a woman who taught me that family is more important than contracts." His CFO, Robert Manning, stood up. Tyler braced for criticism. Instead, Robert started clapping. Then the head of engineering joined in. Then the entire room erupted in applause. "Boss," Robert said, grinning, "we were worried you were going to say you were resigning. Your personal life, that's yours. We're just glad you're finally living it." Tyler felt his throat tighten with unexpected emotion. That afternoon, Grace's school called. Tyler's heart sank. Another bullying incident. But the principal surprised him. "Mr. Harrison, I wanted you to know that Grace gave a presentation today about families. She talked about losing her parents, about being sad, and about how Miss Olivia taught her that love can heal broken hearts." The principal's voice softened. There wasn't a dry eye in the classroom, including mine. Whatever gossip was circulating has been thoroughly replaced by respect for your family's strength. After he hung up, Tyler found Olivia in the garden with Noah, planting flowers. "Grace made us famous at school," he announced. "Good famous or bad famous?" "The best kind. The kind that comes from truth." He joined them in the dirt, not caring about his suit. "Noah, what do you think about Miss Olivia living with us forever?" Noah looked up seriously. "Is she going to be our aunt?" Tyler met Olivia's eyes. "Would you want that?" "Forever and ever," Noah pressed. "Forever and ever," Tyler confirmed. "Then yes." Noah cheered, smearing dirt on Tyler's jacket in his enthusiasm. And in that moment, covered in garden soil with the woman he loved and the child who taught him what really mattered, Tyler Harrison finally understood what success actually looked like. It looked like home. 6 months later, the Houston heat shimmered over Memorial Park as Olivia Morgan, soon to be Olivia Harrison, stood in front of a full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself. Her wedding dress was simple, elegant, nothing like the elaborate affairs featured in bridal magazines. But it was perfect, just like the small ceremony they'd planned at the park where they'd shared so many adventures with Grace and Noah. "You look like a princess," Grace breathed, wearing her own flower girl dress with obvious pride. "A real princess," Noah added, adjusting his tiny bow tie for the 100th time. "Not the scary kind from Uncle Tyler's business meetings." Olivia laughed, pulling both children into a careful hug. "You two are pretty fancy yourselves." Patricia appeared in the doorway of the park's event pavilion, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. "Everyone's ready, are you?" Was she ready? Olivia thought about the journey that had brought her here, answering a job posting 6 months ago because she needed work, walking into a cold mansion and finding a broken family, falling in love with 2 grieving children, falling in love with their uncle who'd forgotten how to live beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. "I'm ready," she said. The ceremony was held under a massive oak tree, draped in tiny lights that would sparkle when evening fell. The guest list was small. Patricia and her family, Marcus Rodriguez, Tyler's key employees who'd become friends, Olivia's parents who'd driven from Dallas, and a handful of the children's teachers who'd become part of their extended family. Sarah Chen, the attorney who defended them in court, sat in the front row grinning like she'd won another case. When the music started, not the traditional wedding march, but Somewhere Over the Rainbow because Noah had insisted, Olivia walked down the makeshift aisle with Grace and Noah on either side of her. And there, standing under the oak tree in a suit that probably cost less than his usual attire, because Olivia had convinced him they didn't need to be fancy, was Tyler Harrison. His eyes met hers, and Olivia saw everything there. The grief he'd carried, the fear he'd conquered, the love that had grown from the most unexpected soil. "You look beautiful," he mouthed. "You look like you didn't burn toast this morning," she mouthed back, and his grin lit up the entire park. The officiant, Judge Maria Gonzalez, who'd agreed to perform the ceremony after hearing their story, smiled warmly at the gathered crowd. "We're here to celebrate not just a marriage but a family," Judge Gonzalez began. I first met this family in my courtroom 6 months ago, under less joyful circumstances. But what I saw that day was what we're celebrating now. People choosing love over fear, connection over convenience, family over everything else. She turned to Tyler and Olivia. I understand you've written your own vows. Tyler took Olivia's hands, and she felt them tremble slightly. This man who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals was nervous about promising forever to her. Olivia, Tyler began, his voice rough with emotion. 6 months ago I was drowning. I had money, success, everything the world says matters, but I'd forgotten how to live. You walked into my house with a backpack full of picture books and reminded me what actually matters. Laughter at breakfast, paper airplanes, burnt toast, and people who love you even when you're terrible at pancakes. Laughter rippled through the crowd. You saved my niece and nephew, but you also saved me. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that love is worth fighting for, and that family isn't just blood. It's choice. Every day, I choose you, forever. Olivia was crying before he finished. She took a shaky breath, trying to compose herself. Tyler, when I took this job, I thought I was just helping 2 kids through a difficult time. I didn't expect to find a man who needed healing as much as they did. She squeezed his hands. You were so scared of failing them, but you never saw what I saw from day one, a man who loved deeply but didn't know how to show it yet. You learned to show it. You learned to read bedtime stories, to build block towers, to be present even when work was calling. You learned that success isn't measured in contracts, but in the sound of children laughing. And somewhere along the way, you taught me that it's okay to love again after loss, that my brother's death doesn't define me. How I live honors him. She paused, her voice thick with tears. I choose you too, forever and ever. Forever and ever, Grace and Noah chorused together, making everyone laugh through their tears. Judge Gonzalez smiled. By the power vested in me by the state of Texas, and in the presence of these witnesses who love you, I pronounce you husband and wife. Tyler, you may kiss your bride. Tyler pulled Olivia close and kissed her like they were the only 2 people in the world. When they broke apart, Grace and Noah crashed into them, creating a group hug that was probably not traditional but was absolutely perfect. The reception was held right there in the park, with catering from their favorite Tex-Mex restaurant and a cake that Noah had helped decorate, which meant it was slightly lopsided but covered in astronauts and butterflies. As the sun set and the lights in the oak tree began to sparkle, Tyler and Olivia shared their first dance, while Grace and Noah spun in circles nearby, creating their own chaotic version of dancing. So, Tyler murmured against Olivia's ear, how does it feel to be Mrs. Harrison? Like coming home, Olivia replied. How does it feel to be married to the hired help? Like the best decision I ever made. He spun her gently. Though I should warn you, Patricia is already planning to teach you the family recipes. Apparently, I need a wife who can make edible pancakes. Your pancakes have improved. They're still terrible. Noah feeds his to the neighbor's dog. Olivia laughed, resting her head against his chest as they swayed. We really did it, didn't we? Made a family out of broken pieces. You did it. I just stopped being too scared to help. We did it together, Olivia corrected. And we'll keep doing it. Through tantrums and homework and teenage years and whatever else comes. Forever and ever. Forever and ever. Marcus Rodriguez approached as the song ended, grinning. Boss, I hate to interrupt the newlywed glow, but you're going to want to see this. He showed them his phone. The Houston Chronicle's evening edition featured a photo of their ceremony. Someone had clearly leaked it to the press. But the headline wasn't scandalous. It read, Local CEO shows real success, family first. The article was beautiful, focusing on Tyler's transformation from workaholic to devoted guardian, on Olivia's dedication to helping traumatized children heal, on their love story that had overcome scandal and prejudice. We're famous again, Olivia said. Good famous this time. The best kind, Tyler agreed, then looked at Marcus. How did this happen? Eleanor Ashford, Marcus admitted. She called the Chronicle herself, said it was time Houston knew the real story. Tyler shook his head in wonder. Remind me to send her flowers. As the evening deepened, Grace and Noah fell asleep on a blanket under the oak tree, exhausted from dancing and cake. Olivia and Tyler sat beside them, watching the Houston skyline light up in the distance. "Do you remember the first day I arrived?" Olivia asked quietly. "You stood in Noah's doorway looking so lost. I remember thinking you were going to make a mess of my carefully controlled life. I did make a mess. The best mess." Tyler kissed her temple. "Thank you for not giving up on us, on me. Thank you for choosing to try, for choosing love over fear." Patricia appeared with a blanket, draping it over the sleeping children. "You two should head out. Start your honeymoon." "We're not going far," Olivia said. They'd decided on a weekend at the Post Oak Hotel, ironically the same hotel where Victoria had stayed during her campaign against them. But now it would hold different memories. "Still," Patricia said, shooing them away, "I've got the kids. Go be newlyweds." As Tyler and Olivia walked to his car, the Tesla, because Olivia's Honda had finally died a noble death, they paused to look back at the scene under the oak tree. Patricia sitting with the sleeping children, their friends cleaning up the reception, the lights twinkling in the branches. "We made something beautiful," Tyler said softly. "We did," Olivia agreed. "Out of grief and fear and broken pieces, we made something beautiful." They drove through Houston's streets, past the corporate towers downtown, past the River Oaks mansion that had become a home, toward whatever future waited for them. In the back seat, Tyler's phone buzzed with a message from Grace's iPad, sent before she'd fallen asleep. "I told you Miss Olivia would stay forever. Love you, Uncle Tyler and Aunt Olivia." And under the Houston sky, with the city lights spreading out like stars fallen to earth, the Harrison family, built not by blood but by choice, not by obligation but by love, drove toward their tomorrow, together, forever and ever.